Now let's click on plugins over here on the left. And this is the page which shows the installed plugins on our site currently. And we have 2 of them that were installed by default when we installed WordPress. Now what are plugins exactly? Plugins are just a bunch of code which add functions and features to your WordPress theme. And there's a bunch of very cool plugins, and we're going to take a look at some of them in just a minute. Actually, we're going to get rid of this Hello Dolly plugin right now. We're just going to click deactivate, and we're going to delete it. The Akismet one we'll talk about in just a moment. We're going to leave it activated. Let's click on Add New under Plugins. Here are some featured plugins on WordPress.org, and Akismet's one of them because it's made by Automatic, WordPress.com, just like this one too. And they're not too bad of plugins. We'll talk about the Akismet one in just a couple minutes. Now to do a search for a plugin, you can just do a search by keyword, which is what I normally do. I'll just type in SEO. You could also do a search by the plugin author if you have a plugin that you use and you want to find out what other plugins perhaps he's made. You can do it that way. This is bringing up search results with plugins that have SEO in the name, and a lot of these are pretty obscure. Not too many people are using them. Doesn't mean they're bad plugins, but it's kind of hard to know one way or the other unless you know the plugin author. And last updated 4 weeks ago, compatible with your version of WordPress right here. So these are pretty obscure plugins. Right down here, let's check out this one down here, SEO by Squirrely. Never really heard of it, but it has a lot of good ratings here and 30,000 active installs, so it's not, and it was last updated 2 weeks ago, so they keep on top of this plugin. Now there are tons of really cool plugins that add all kinds of functions and features. There are a bunch of free ones on WordPress.org, which you'll see, and some of these have premium versions, and there's also premium plugins which you can buy that aren't even listed on WordPress.org, and I have a couple of those actually myself. My general rule of thumb with plugins is not to install plugins that I don't need, that aren't necessary, and I try not to have more than 15 active plugins at one time. And sometimes it's less than that depending on what plugins I have, because some of them will slow your site down no matter how many plugins you have on your site. And a good way to know if you have too many plugins, you can check your website speed right here at Pingdom, tools.pingdom.com. And this URL is on my blog post, which we'll go to in a minute. And do a before and after test of your website speed. Do a couple tests before you install plugins, and then after you install the plugins, you can check it out again, and you'll know if it's slowed your site down too much. Now, talking about plugins, let's go to my wphowtos.com site and my plugin post, my resources post. So let's install a few of these plugins on our site. And a good way to do that actually is just use my blog post as a reference. Come to my blog post, have it open in a new tab, copy the name, go back to your Add Plugins screen right here. We'll paste in our Elementor Page Builder plugin right here. We are going to use this very cool plugin. We are going to check it out a little later. Right now we'll just install and activate it. And once it's installed, you just click, it'll change to activate. Go ahead and click on the blue button one more time. Now we have Elementor installed and activated on our site, and we are going to use Elementor to build out our web pages in a little while. But right now, let's go back to our Add New Plugins screen. We'll go back to my blog post. I'll move it back over here, and we're going to add a few more of these plugins. I'll go through the same process. I'll go through it one more time with you. Copy the name, open up my blog post in one tab, have your Add Plugins screen open in another tab, paste in the name right here. And WordPress Security actually has a premium version. I've never used it myself, but it might be good. Okay, now we'll just activate this one. And as you can see, it has like 3,000 reviews and 1 million plus active installs, so very popular plugin. We'll go back to Add New Plugins. And what I'm going to do actually is go through this list, and I'm going to install these ones right here I'm going to install the next 5 of our plugins that we have listed on my post. So I'm just going to go through the same process. Copy the name, go back over to our Add Plugin screen, do a search for it, install and activate. So I'm going to pause the video while I do this. Alright, I've got some plugins installed and activated on our site. I'm actually going to upload a plugin that's not listed on WordPress.org, a backup plugin that I use, so I'm just going to browse to it like this, find the zip file of the plugin I want to install, Backup Buddies, which I use a lot. I'm just going to click on that like this, and I'll click Install Now for that one. Alright, now let's take a look at all the installed plugins on our site. I actually installed and activated a couple more plugins from this list. This one right here, Access Press, Social Icons, and Meta Slider. I didn't install Yoast SEO. I actually have another video about that. You can check that out if you want. And I also installed and activated Backup Buddy. So let's go back to our list. And what I'm going to actually do before we go into some of these plugins and configure a couple of them, I'm actually going to select all of them like that, putting a check in the box and hovering over the bulk actions, click deactivate, apply. Then we're going to do a site speed test real quick. I'm going to copy my URL like this, go back to pingdom.com, tools.pingdom.com, paste in our URL, and we'll do a speed test. And let's take a look at the results. Performance C, not bad. Load time 1.15 seconds, faster than 87% of all sites. That's pretty darn good. Actually, of course, our site doesn't have anything on it. Let's go back to our plugins page now, and we're going to put a check in that box one more time. Bulk actions, we're going to activate and click apply. Then we're going to go back to Pingdom, and we're going to do that test one more time. All right, we'll go ahead and click Start Test and check out our site speed now that we have all those plugins installed and activated. Now our results are different. Our performance grade actually went up from a C to a B because of one of the plugins that we installed and activated. Our load time, of course, is increased, and our faster time, we're faster than 74% rather than faster than 87%, just because we have a little bit more on our site. Of course, we don't have any pages or anything yet, so our load time will probably go down a little bit as we add more stuff to our site. But this is a good way to test out and see if plugins are slowing down your site or not. Let's go back to our plugins page. Let's check out some of these. We'll use the Access Press Social Icons in a little bit. Kismet. Now this is a anti-spam plugin. It's been around for quite a while, and it does its job pretty well. It's not free. It's about $40 a year if you are using it for your site as a business site, a commercial site. It's free for personal sites though, and it does work pretty well. But actually what I'm using nowadays is a plugin called WP-Spam Shield instead of Akismet. So what I'm going to do is actually deactivate and delete Akismet. Alright, I got rid of that Akismet plugin. Backup Buddy, great backup plugin. It's not free, but I use it for all my sites. Black Studio Tiny MCE widget, we'll cover that when we go over the widgets section. Contact Form 7, very good plugin we're going to use for our contact form. We're going to make a contact page on our site. Elementor, we're going to use that as our page builder. Great plugin, we're going to cover that a little later. Meta Slider, a great free slider plugin. We'll make a slider on a page on our site. Tiny MCE Advanced, great plugin. It enhances the visual editor features, which we are going to use to configure our pages. In fact, let's hover over Settings and click on Tiny MCE Advanced and configure this one really quick. There are a couple things we can do to add to our Tiny MCE Advanced plugin. Make sure that you have this box checked, by the way. And here's where you can add more features to your visual editor screen. This might look familiar if you ever used a Word document, Word, Microsoft Word or anything. Pretty similar. I'm going to add, I like strike through, I'm going to add that, just drag it up there, hold your left mouse down and drag it up to the section up here. And we'll add, let's see, one more background color for our text. Put it right here next to the text color. Horizontal line, I'll add this one up here. And that's enough for now. You can add more as you see fit. I'm just going to click on Save Changes. Then we'll go back to our plugins page. The next plugin is the W3 Total Cache plugin. Caching plugins, there's a bunch of them besides this one, will help your site load faster. It stores your site to content in a cache rather than calling it up from where it is on your server, so it decreases your load time, I should say. In fact, if we take a look over at our website speed test, we notice our performance grade went from a C to a B. That is because of the W3 Total Cache plugin. There's a few settings we can tweak here. Normally, you can just use it right out of the box, and it works pretty well. There are a bunch of settings you can tweak if you really want to get into it, but under Performance, let's click on General Settings. I clicked on Performance, by the way, and we just want to make sure that Page Cache is enabled. So we're going to put a check in this box right here. Then under Page Cache Method, we want to make sure it says Disk Enhanced. If it doesn't say Disk Enhanced, if you're using something besides a shared server, of course you would have different options, but most people use shared serving. So Disk Enhanced, then click on Save All Settings. And we'll scroll down and just check out one more thing here. We want to make sure that our browser cache is enabled, and it normally is by default, so it's all good there, and that's all you really have to do for W3 Total Cache. You can get more involved and really tweak things if you're really getting into checking out your site speed, but that's all we're going to do in this video. I'm going to click Installed Plugins one more time. WordFence Security, you can turn on the WordFence firewall if you want. I'm just going to leave it as is. The WP Smush plugin, this helps optimize your images on your site. Of course, we don't have any right now. If you click on Settings under WP Smush, and the WP Smush plugin will help you optimize your images, reduce the file size, and they do have a premium version of this plugin also. If you already have some images on your site before you install and activated this plugin, you can click on this Recheck Images. You can click on this one right here, Enable Resize Savings. Like that, your settings have been updated. So a very good plugin, helps reduce the file size of your images, just like I said, and it's free. Let's go back to our installed plugins page. And our last plugin, WP Spam Shield, we're using this instead of Akismet. You can click on settings. I've already got it opened up in another page. Of course, this just helps you block all those spammy comments that show up on your site if you allow people to comment on your blog posts. There's a bunch of different settings you can check over here. I'm not going to get into it, but there's a lot of documentation on their site, so you can check that out if you want. All right, now we have our plugins installed and activated, which will add a lot of nice features to our site. Now let's talk about the appearance of our site. So let's hover over appearance. Well, let's just click on appearance, and we'll check out the WordPress themes. And this is your themes page. It shows you which WordPress themes you currently have installed on your site. Now, WordPress themes are just a bunch of code, and you don't have to know anything about how they work to use them, thank goodness. And they provide the framework of your site. And there's all types of WordPress themes, some that are very simple and basic, and then there's some that have all kinds of whistles and bells and doodads on them, and I kind of tend to stay away from those, even though they look pretty cool, like the ones on Theme Forest, if you've ever seen those themes. They have a lot of different features, but I just don't tend to use all those kind of things. I like to add my features and functions to my WordPress theme with using plugins rather than have them built into the WordPress theme itself. And they just tend to work better that way, in my opinion. Right now we have 3 basic default WordPress themes from WordPress.org installed on our site. WordPress.org usually comes out with a theme about once a year, and they're named after the year they come out in, 2016, 2015, and currently the default theme at the time of this video is the 2017 theme. The default themes from WordPress.org are good, solid, basic themes, and they're always kept updated. So a lot of WordPress developers actually use the default theme as a starting point and then customize them. Of course, they're doing a bunch of code and that sort of thing, and we're not going to do any of that in this video. In fact, let's get rid of a couple of these off our desktop just to get rid of the clutter. So let's click on Theme Details under the 2015 theme. Down at the bottom right, there's a delete button. Go ahead and click on that. And I'm going to do the same thing for the 2016 theme too. All right, that leaves us with the 2017 theme. And I'm sure it's a decent theme in its own right, but we aren't going to use that one either. Let's click Add New up here in the top left by Themes. Here are a bunch of featured themes from WordPress.org in the WordPress.org theme depository, I think it's called. And these are all free themes. Some of them probably are decent themes. I don't really tend to use too many free themes myself, just because they're free, so the theme author doesn't make any money from them, and they tend to lose motivation a lot of times because, well, they're not making any money, so they stop updating them. Some of the free themes are pretty nice, though, and I have used a few of them. You can check out their featured themes, popular, latest, favorites. You can click on the feature filter like this and do a search for different themes according to what features they have. 1, 2, 3, 4 columns, footer widgets, front page posting, a blog style, e-commerce style, etc., etc. But we are actually going to search for a specific theme that I have in mind for this video called Generate Press. So just go ahead and type that in there. And there's the Generate Press theme that we are going to use in our video. So let's go ahead and click Install. And once you get it installed, go ahead and click on Activate.